Hello and welcome to Your County. I'm your host, Lynn Turner Fitzgerald. Joining me is County Commission Chairman Mark Morse. I want to thank you for being here, taking the time to visit with us.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Sure. So this is a tough time.
It's a difficult
time for the County Commission, for the county, really for the state of Montana, losing John Ostlund.
Yeah, and it's really affected a lot of employees in the courthouse because John is the commissioner that they saw basically since the start of their career. You know, John has worked for the county 53 years. He was 30 years on Road and Bridge, and then he ran for commissioner and won the election. So his first day as a commissioner was January 1st, 2002. So he's been a commissioner. He would have been 23 years, and next year would have been his 24th.
And that was when he planned to retire?
So John, you know, never actually said that he was definitively going to retire. John said he was thinking about it.
Yeah, okay.
And he was kind of looking around for, you know, who would be a good replacement for him.
Right, okay. Well, and that's really the business of the day now, is finding a replacement.
That's correct. And as you well know, Lynn, John was had strong opinions, convictions. And
yes, I've interviewed him many times. I'm fully aware.
He was looking for, you know, the person who he thought best could fill his shoes and carry on with what he had started, the direction he had the county headed in.
Yeah, but did he have anything narrowed down? Any person narrowed?
I know that he had met with a number of people in the community, but he had not told me that, hey, I think, you know, person X is the person.
Okay. Well, now the process, you and Commissioner Waters will be the final say, right? But you're not the selection committee per se.
So that's correct. State statute is pretty clear when it comes to county commissioners. So if a person is interested, you have to apply to the Yellowstone County Republican Central Committee, and that would be Pam Purrington is the chair of that, and Barb Shepley is the vice chair.
Okay. And
Pam's number is 855-3535. And you express your interest that you think you want to take John's seat, and there's a couple of things. You have to live in Commissioner District number 1, because that was John's district.
That's Lockwood and South Billings?
So yeah, so the easiest way to think about it is from Division Street. If you took Central Avenue and you went straight west to the western edge of the county, everything south of that, and then going east, everything south of I-90 would be District number 1.
Okay. You guys have big districts, don't you?
Yellowstone County is a very large county. Doesn't look like it when you look at it because it kind of goes on the angle, but land mass wise, it's a very large county.
Well, off the subject a little bit, do you think the size of the Yellowstone County Commission will ever increase?
John and I did talk about that, and we both agreed that we think 3 is a good number. It's the government that's closest to the people. And if you look, or if you follow, and you probably do because you're involved with Community 7, we run pretty tight public meetings. I mean, we have an agenda, we stick to the agenda, we start on time, and generally it's a pretty simple vote. You know, you look at or hear about some of the meetings that the city council has where they go to maybe 10 o'clock at night or 2 o'clock in the morning, or you hear stories like that.
Yeah, witnessed a couple of them myself.
So, you know, I think the thing that's great about a 3-person commission is, take example for me. If I was way out of bounds in things I was doing, come election time, it's very easy to vote me out of office. And then you can change maybe the complexion or direction of the commission. So I would say that, and I know that there's people that disagree with me, they think it should be 5 or 7, but then you start getting into, it gets tough to find a consensus sometimes. And I think there again, the best, you look at city council, I think that's the best argument for saying maybe smaller is better. And listen, myself, Commissioner Waters, Commissioner Ostlund, we don't hide our cell phone numbers. We don't hide our email addresses. If you want to talk to me, you pick up the phone and you call, because I'm going to take your call.
That's unusual in government.
And so I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, that
we
kind
don't
of
hide. I mean,
accessibility.
Now listen, we may disagree at the end of that conversation, but at least we are going to have had a conversation. You're going to understand my reasoning, and I'm going to understand your side of the equation. Right. So I really am proud of that.
Good. So the person who gets selected now to replace Commissioner Ostlund would serve until when?
So they, according to statute, they are appointed to fill out the remainder of John's term. So whoever gets appointed will serve until December 31st of 2026. And if they think, obviously, they're interested in pursuing it as a career, then they would have to start campaigning next year and go through the primary process as well as the general election.
Well, now, if a person already has a job and maybe is interested in the commission, can they keep their job and do both?
Well, I think that's a decision that the person has to make, but I can tell you that this is a full-time job, and you get paid for a full-time job. And to do it right, you have to work full-time. So we have, on Tuesday mornings at 9, that's when our public meetings are, that's when all votes are taken, that's when county business is conducted, and it takes 2 votes to move any action forward. So that's when that happens. Then on Wednesday at 9 is basically our discussion time, and that's for county employees can come in and talk to us, general public can come in and talk to us, companies can come in and talk to us, and that's actually, we have a dialogue back and forth.
Right.
We don't have that at the public meetings. We have public comment, you can address us, but we're not going to answer questions with the public.
Right.
And so then you're assigned as a commissioner, you're assigned, I think we have, each commissioner gets about 7 boards that they're on. And 4 of the boards are boards that we all set on that we can go to, and then the other 3 are boards that, by virtue of being, you hold that position generally because you're a commissioner, you might be a voting member. And so in addition to that, when you get done with that, then you have meetings that you'd have with your department heads, your direct reports to commissioners. And then there's generally 2 or 3 breakfast meetings at 7 o'clock in the morning that we go to, and there's generally at least 2 meetings a night you go to. And the thing I would tell people, you get out of this job what you put into it, and how successful, and this is something Commissioner Ostlund taught me, really, you have to be out, you have to be involved, you have to be where people are, because a lot of times people, if they see you out, they'll walk up to you and say, "Hi, I'm Terry so-and-so, and I live on 123 Main Street, and I got this question I want to ask you." And they'll do that in a social setting where they wouldn't do it any other time. So it really is important to go to the breakfast meetings and the after hours meetings, because you meet a ton of people that way.
Well, in other words, you can never take off the commissioner hat.
No, you always, people are always going to come up and talk to you about something.
Right. What do you think moving forward, Mark, will be issues that will face the commission and this new member?
Well, I can tell you, having just gone through it, your first 2 years, it's kind of like drinking from the fire hose. So, I thought I was pretty involved in the community, and I was a deputy, so I knew everything that went on kind of in the sheriff's office.
Right.
But I can tell you, when I stepped into commissioner shoes, there's a lot of economic development going on in Yellowstone County. There's a lot of little pieces that people just keep their head down and they do their thing, and it all makes the economy work here in Yellowstone County. And I think that's the thing. Yellowstone County, we have a vibrant, diverse economic base, and so we're never going to see the spikes like you'd see in Bozeman or Missoula or Kalispell, and you're never going to see the downturns like Bozeman.
With Bozeman, now you're talking tech.
Right, tech.
I'm guessing.
And Missoula is the outdoor crowd and people that want to live in the mountains, and probably a more progressive crowd than is in Billings. And the same thing in Flathead. People retire up there,
Mm-hmm.
and there is tech in Flathead actually.
Oh, yeah.
Put quite a bit of tech, and so because we have such a diverse base of economics in Billings, we're always kind of like in that 3 to 4% growth bracket. I mean, we don't see huge spikes, we don't see huge troughs, which is great for us as a community.
Where does ag fall in the
Ag
lineup?
is the number one industry in Yellowstone County, by far. And we have 3 refineries here, and ag is number one.
Wow.
It's phenomenal how big the ag sector is here.
Yeah. So back to the selection process here. Now, does the candidate have to belong to the Republican Party?
So that is for the Central Committee to.
But because Mr. Ostlund was a Republican and voters voted him in, it would follow, wouldn't it, that the next person in would have to be a Republican?
Yes, and I think kind of the mechanism that they use that is the Central Committee vets you, and if they don't think that you're
Well, yeah.
Republican,
You're not
or they
getting
don't
through.
think they're not going to forward your name.
You're not going to get
Yeah,
through.
you're not going to get through.
So now these candidates who contact Pam Purrington will be interviewed eventually by the Republican committee?
Yes, so that is going to occur on Wednesday, July 16th.
Okay.
And we have offered our boardroom in the Stillwater building on the 3rd floor for that event. Neither myself or Commissioner Waters would be there. That would be, we don't want to be involved in that. We're not, the Central Committee is the selection committee. We pick the final candidate.
And so they then forward names to you?
So they will forward us the next day on Wednesday, July 17th.
Okay.
They will forward us 3 names. And so we can either select one of those 3 names, or we can say, no, we would like 3 more names. The Central Committee gives us 3 more names. And once we have that second set of 3, we have to pick one of those 6 names.
One of the 6. Will you have an opportunity, you and Commissioner Waters, to interview these finalists? I mean, it seems like you're handed 3 names. Do you know them?
So my guess is that myself and Commissioner Waters will probably hold interviews with the first 3 names they give us, and if we ask for 4, 5, and 6, we would do
Right.
the same. But as you correctly point out, they may be people in the community that
Right.
I'm unfamiliar with, or Commissioner Waters is unfamiliar
Well,
with.
is there a timeline on when you have to make a decision?
No, the statute is silent. There is no
Really?
timeline. Now, I think for good business practices, we want to get it done sooner
Yeah.
than later, but here again, you're in the middle. Right now, we're over 4th of July week. It's a holiday. Everybody takes this week off, or many people take this week off.
Right.
And I mean, I think we have to be mindful that while we want to get it done as expeditiously as we can, people may have vacations that are scheduled that they can't get out of. I mean, just all those type of things.
Yeah, right. Well, What kind of qualities do you think would be most important for this candidate?
You know, I mean, I look at John, and I don't think anybody loved this county more than John. You know, like I said, he's worked here, 53 years, so assuming he was 20 years old when he started, I mean, you can do the simple math, you know his age. And, I think you have to be, John was always a pretty happy-go-lucky, outgoing guy. He always had a smile on his face. He always made people feel like they knew him. He just had a really engaging, when he went out and met with the public, he had just an engaging style. People would come up and they'd talk to him, even if they didn't know him. I mean, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And
He's a big presence.
well, he was, he's larger than life. I mean, I don't want to sound, like a cliche, but John really was larger than life. People knew him across the state.
Yeah. What was your reaction when you learned of his death?
So, I'm former law enforcement, and I've gotten these calls before, so, I can say that generally it's not a surprise to you, but I can definitely say when I got this call and John's name was attached to it, I was, I think stunned would probably be a good word. I mean, he was just one of those people I never thought I would get this call about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It's a shock.
It's a shock.
Yeah.
And I think as you and me talked earlier, the three commissioners' office are in a row over at the Stillwater building. And so generally when you're going to leave for the day, as a commissioner walks down the row, he'll poke his head in and he'll say, okay, I'm taking off for the day, you got anything I need to know or something like that? And you just say, no, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. And you never know when you say that when it's going to be the last time.
Right. Well, moving forward, with this just two commissioner commission, can work continue?
So, yes, and that was the message that we put out to our employees, that John would want the business of the county to continue. I mean, unfortunately, in today's society, that's, you got to keep putting one foot in front of the other and just marching ahead. And so long as Commissioner Waters and I agree on whatever an issue may be, that's 2 votes.
You got the 2 votes.
Right. So it either you can advance it or you can kill it. And if we vote differently,
Mm-hmm.
so in that case, the matter fails due to the fact that it didn't get a majority.
Yeah.
So it dies for
Yeah.
lack of a second is
Right.
kind of the name, what they call it.
Because this is kind of an open-ended process. This could potentially go on for a couple of months, I would imagine. I know you don't want it to,
Right.
but you never know.
That's correct.
So the business continues. All right, I want to circle back, though, and talk about potential issues facing Yellowstone County that this new candidate will be stepping into.
I think we're on the federal scene, that changes kind of on a day-to-day, what entitlements may get funded, may not get funded. I think there's a lot of, because a lot of federal money flows through the state to counties. So I think there's some, I don't want to say that it's apprehension. I mean, there's just, you don't exactly know. Programs that may have got funded by a federal grant last year may not get funded this year, and you have no clear idea. I mean, everybody may be telling you that, yes, you're going to get funded, and all of a sudden at the last minute, no, you're not.
And that's particularly true this year. I mean, there's been a lot of bouncing around in the federal budget.
Yes.
A lot of programs have been cut or defunded. So in that case, would Yellowstone County try to fund a program on its own?
So getting to the meat of what you're asking, the biggest problem, the biggest issue facing Yellowstone County is public safety. And when I say public safety, that's the jail, that's the sheriff's office, county attorney's office, justice court. It's just criminal justice in general. We funded last fiscal year, we funded the sheriff's office above their budget allotment. We funded them $2.5 million
Above there.
above their allotment. We will end up funding them for the fiscal year that just ended, $3 million, and it looks like we probably are looking at $3.5 million for FY26, which starts July 1st. So that's unsustainable for the county. We don't have those kind of reserves
I was going to say, we're
in the general fund.
going to have a big bake sale and get some money.
So, some of that is, as you're probably aware, it costs us approximately $120 a day to house an inmate in Yellowstone County Detention Facility. The state reimburses us $82 a day for state inmates. And on any given day, there may be 50 plus state inmates. So when you do the math, that's just money that Yellowstone County taxpayers are supporting the state prison system.
And this has gone on for years.
It has.
This is not a new problem.
And so,
but it just continues to drag on and on.
Well, so we did, John, Mike and I passed a resolution, and I think it was back in March maybe, and we basically said that beginning April, our daily rate for inmates at the jail was going to be $117. And to this point, the state has ignored that and continued to pay us $82.
Well, what kind of leverage do you have?
So there was a Montana Supreme Court ruling in a case involving Missoula, and the Supreme Court justices said you can't backcharge a rate, but if you set a rate, and I'll just use an example, on Monday, and the rate is $117, and people leave their prisoners in there, then they've agreed that they're going to pay your rate of $117. So I think at some point we will ask the county attorney. I think we'll probably wait to see a couple of months to see how that pans out, and if the state still has not paid us the $117, we'll probably sue them in court and see where that goes. Because it's really about fairness to Yellowstone County taxpayers.
Are other counties facing similar situations?
I know that Cascade County is at capacity or over. Gallatin County doesn't run at capacity, so I don't. I'm sure if they have state inmates, they're only getting $82 a day. Yeah. I think they're all looking to wait and see where our $117 rate ends up.
Okay, all right. Any plans for a new jail?
So the jail master plan will be presented Wednesday, July 2nd. So that's this Wednesday.
Okay.
That will be presented at our discussion meeting, and it'll be Dusty Eaton from A&E Architects and some of his team members. And they're not going to go into, they worked on it for over a year, so they're not going to give that kind of detail, but they're going to give broad strokes what that is.
Nice. So is Yellowstone County involved at all with the women's prison, or is that state?
That's the state.
Okay.
And so that is probably like you. We've heard it's going to be in Butte. We've heard it's not going to be in. I know the people in Butte are not the taxpayers are not in favor of it. We have no idea what that means for the facility here on South 27th Street.
Right. Well, we're just about out of time. I want to thank you for being here, and again, mention that people need to call Pam Purrington. She's chair of the Yellowstone County Republican Central Committee. Did I get her?
You got it right.
Whoa. Her number is 406 855-3535. I got that right?
Yes.
So give her a call. I imagine there's some kind of application process that they'll.
And I don't know, that's.
And you're not supposed to know, right?
I'm not supposed to know, that's
You're
their.
not supposed to know, okay. And then also, memorial service for Commissioner Ostlund is the 12th of July at Metro Park,
At 10 o'clock in the morning.
10 o'clock, all right.
And it will be in the arena, so there will be plenty of seating for whoever shows up.
All right. Well, again, I want to thank you for joining us.
Okay, well, thank you, Lynn.
And thank you for joining us. We'll be back next time.